Yep. I'm sure my Persona subscribers are very confused. Before I say anything, I want to open with the fact that I have been in love with this show and its characters for quite a while. In November of 2019, when Season 3 released, I finally took the plunge and binged the entire show for the very first time. I was truly enamored with the world, the characters, the writing, the music. Hell, the show had its fair share of solid humor at the time. Honestly, I think what impressed me the most was that it seemingly established a well-written, romantic relationship between the two main characters with plenty of show left to go, which is honestly quite unheard of in children's cartoons. Usually they just add a bunch of forced drama between the love interests until they finally bring them together in the last minute. Looking at you, Starverses. In short, it was nice to see something different for a change, and I was really excited to see how they would continue to progress things in the overall story after Arc 1's grand finale. Well, finally, after a significant 3-year gap that occurred for a smorgasbord of reasons, Season 4 released in November of 2022. And it sure was terrible! Now, I know what you're thinking. Heppy, that sounds a bit harsh for a show that you just claimed to have been in love with. Was Season 4 really such a big drop in quality? And to that I say, yes. Yes, it was. Let me explain. Season 4 feels almost like an entirely different show, and not in a good way. Perhaps that has to do with director and executive producer Giancarlo Volpe, I think that's how you pronounce that, if it's not, forgive me, leaving the show in 2019. I'm also pretty sure that there was some moving around in the writing staff in terms of the hierarchy of lead writer versus supporting writers. I could be wrong on that. But if it is true, these dramatic changes in the production team absolutely show with Season 4's quality. Season 4 takes pretty much everything that made the first 3 seasons of the Dragon Prince special and absolutely butchers it. The pacing is significantly worse, many of the characters lose a lot of their nuance, the soundtrack is less memorable, and the overall writing just feels way less mature. And no, I'm not talking about the fart jokes, although those do suck. What I mean here is, while the show was obviously never this super adult story, it's always been a kid's show at heart. I was genuinely impressed by the first 3 seasons' level of maturity and depth for a kid's show. I thought there were many places where they really pushed the show's rating in the best way. It was dark at times, it addressed important political topics, it was genuine emotional storytelling. Season 4, on the other hand, feels more like a show for toddlers. Pretty much any hint of subtlety or maturity in the writing has died, and everything is now incredibly obvious and child-friendly. While there is nothing inherently wrong with a show designed for young children, that is not at all what The Dragon Prince used to be. One of the reasons this show was praised as being a spiritual successor to The Last Airbender was that it struck the same balance of being both for kids and adults alike. Now the balance weighs heavily in the kids' favor, and in my opinion, a lot of the show's charm, intelligence, and creativity is lost because of it. I think one of the things that upsets me the most is that they dramatically changed the relationship between Callum and Rayla, arguably the heart and soul of this entire show, and shift it into something completely unrecognizable. For those of you who don't know, it's explained in a graphic novel that both released and takes place between seasons 3 and 4. Yes, I know, that Callum and Rayla discover that Viren is still alive. Rayla, distraught by this information, is worried about Callum's safety. However, they have a mature discussion, and Rayla agrees that they will set out to find Viren together. But uh-oh, Rayla actually lies to his face and leaves in the middle of the night on her own, leaving only a letter behind to help justify her behavior. Oh, and did I mention that she does it on his birthday? Am I going crazy, or did she not just learn in Season 3 that a working relationship takes trust and respect from both parties? That when it comes to anything important, they should decide what to do together? That she should trust that Callum is strong enough to take care of himself? That he doesn't need to be protected? They just took a significant chunk of her character arc from the first 3 seasons and threw it out the window. Why? Why did you do this, writers? I think the obvious answer here is that after they brought Callum and Rayla together in Season 3, the writers just had no idea where to go from there. Like, apparently it's impossible to just have 2 main characters stay in a happy and healthy relationship. But Happy, that's boring. You need to have conflicts in their relationship, or else it'll be boring and unrealistic. Okay, look, establishing a conflict that these 2 characters have to face is totally fine. As long as it doesn't completely undermine previously established character development and actually makes sense within the context of the story. These are basic rules in storytelling. Why are you refusing to follow them, Wonderstorm? Let's move on to Season 4. Season 4 takes place 2 years after Season 3, when Rayla finally returns to Katalis to meet with Callum and the rest of the gang. Oh, and you know what the kicker is? Not once does she ever actually apologize for her behavior. No, I'm sorry for lying to your face, Callum. No, I'm sorry for leaving for 2 years on essentially a suicide mission, Callum. Nothing. Instead, she just waits for him to bring the subject up, like it's his responsibility. Rayla should be the one to take initiative to make things better between them. Why is she just waiting for forgiveness from Callum when she hasn't even admitted to him that what she did was wrong? In what world does that make any sense? In Season 4, we find out that Erebos is trying to escape his prison with the help of Viren and Claudia. Funny enough, this entire arc is titled The Mystery of Erebos, and the character in question shows up like twice this entire season. And when he does show up, he just does this strangely out of character, blatantly evil villain speech, when previously, this show has portrayed him as way more complex and interesting than that. Like, he literally just takes turns roasting all of the protagonists, and while it is kind of funny, it's also kind of lame. Claudia also has an elf boyfriend named Terry now. Wait, what? I thought she hated elves. That's pretty weird. Did they ever explain her change of heart in the show? I honestly can't remember. This season is so forgettable. Terry is alright though. He and Viren share some nice moments, I guess. I liked the fight between Claudia and Ibis. Soren flosses at one point, I think. That's a pretty epic gamer moment. I don't think I can talk about Season 4 anymore. Pretty much everything that needs to be said about it has probably already been said by more intelligent people than me. It's so boring. The entire Sunfire Elf subplot is pretty much pointless to the actual main narrative. It's obviously just filler. I am sad. This season makes me sad. So let's talk about Season 5, which makes me slightly less sad, but still sad. Season 5 released on July 22nd, 2023. I just finished it recently, and there is a lot of ground to cover. First of all, I want to start with the things that I really liked about this season. This shot in episode 4 is absolutely gorgeous. Sparklepuff canonically being Viren and Erebos' child is hilarious, and it makes me fear opening up AO3, but let's not worry about that. Pirate stuff is always a cool aesthetic. There are some cute Rayla moments that are still soured by the handling of their relationship conflict, but I'll get to that later. Archmage Akiyu is just a tiny gremlin meme lord, and I love her. The scene where the Blood Moon Huntress just goes to town on all of the Sunfire Elves is honestly really fun to watch. It reminds me of that scene in Rogue One where Darth Vader shows up and just obliterates everyone. It's a blast. Episode 8 is honestly great. It actually has genuine drama, tension, and Callum gets a neat little character study about his relationship with dark magic. Finnegan is a fun villain that actually challenges Callum's ideals. I just wish the rest of the season was similar, because it's not. Besides the positive things I just mentioned, Season 5 is honestly more of the same flaws that plague Season 4. The pacing is still bad, the Sunfire Elf subplot is still there, and mostly boring and meaningless. The subtlety and nuance in the writing is still lacking. I mean, just look at this scene.
Daddy! Daddy, look! I'm following in your footsteps!
Claudia!
Whoa, you get it? She's following in her dad's footsteps, which is a metaphor for her figuratively following in his footsteps with dark magic. And you know this because she says she's following in his footsteps. Do you get it? Do you understand the imagery now? Isn't that neat? Aren't they so smart? The show is also still not funny, although there's no fart humor this time. Yep. because instead there's a poop joke. Yay! Poop funny! I think a lot of the issues come with the fact that Netflix shows tend to do this thing where the writers think they need to keep adding more and more characters to the main cast every single season, so what was once a small to medium-sized cast becomes a completely bloated cast. You know why that's a problem? Focus. The more characters you shed light on in a story, the less time you have to flesh out each individual character. This can lead to characters that were once in-depth and well-written to turn shallow and have no important arcs or contributions whatsoever. The Dragon Prince is starting to suffer heavily from this. There are too many characters now, too much is going on, it flips between different plot lines every 3 minutes, and it is physically and mentally draining to watch. Simply put, the show has lost its focus. For example, Ezran, who was the tritagonist in Arc 1, is essentially a side character now. He has no arc, no interesting motivations, he's just the pragmatic young king who wants to help the world with his friends. Nothing more, nothing less. Zim, who was the main plot device of the entire show for the first 3 seasons, gets nothing to do. Virtually nothing. He has been regressed to the cute dragon friend. Pretty much the only characters that get anything interesting to do now are Callum, Rayla, Viren, and Claudia. I would probably add Erebos to that list if he got more screen time, but more time is spent on other characters talking about him than him actually doing things on screen. Some more random thoughts. I feel like we keep adding more and more important plot devices every season. Like, last season brought back the cube thing. Now this season, there's also a sword thing, and Erebos' prison thing, and Rayla's coin parents things, and Sparklepuff. It's getting a bit much, honestly. Like, are we seriously just going to be able to tie up all these loose ends in just 2 more seasons paced like this? Another thing that caught my attention was that in some scenes, you can clearly see some background characters that are just hand-drawn 2D images, particularly in Scumport. You know, now that I think about it, I actually don't know how long they've been doing this. Have they been doing this since season 1 and I just haven't noticed it until now? Let me know in the comments below. Regardless, it's not a huge deal, but it does come off as a bit lazy. I also really don't like the new Glowtoad babies. They contribute nothing to the plot other than being more cute companions that Wonderstorm can make toys out of. In fact, they actively make the plot worse because Ezran puts everyone in danger by stealing them. Why do you feel the need to steal them, Ezran? I get that you are the protect the animals guy, but the safety of your friends should vastly outweigh the safety of these Glowtoads, especially when finding Erebos' prison is a situation of life or death in itself. The only point of this happening is that Finnegan now has an incentive to chase the protagonists. I don't like them, and I have zero emotional attachment to them. Or Stella. I hate Stella. Stella is yet another cheap way for the writers to solve a problem when they write themselves into a corner. She can literally make a pocket dimension whenever it is convenient. Do you realize how many potential problems in the narrative that power could solve? Too many. The answer is too many. I hate Stella. Why does Janai make it very clear that she forbids Callum and Rayla from going to Luxoria, only for her to do a complete 180 from that in the next scene? She talks about how dangerous it is, and then she's just like, yeah, well, I didn't really expect you to listen, and Amaya's going, so it's fine, I guess. What? Why does Zubeia just stop attacking in this scene? It makes no sense for her to stop attacking. There is no sign of her getting tired or losing strength. Why doesn't Callum just take the book with him in this scene? And isn't he supposed to have a photographic memory? Could he not just look at this page once and not need it again? Why does the big wood guy have a change of heart after one mediocre friendship speech from Soren? He has probably known Finnegan for years. There is no reason for him to all of a sudden trust the words of this guy he just met over someone he has known for a very long time. Why does Nyx show up again? Did the writers throw her in here solely for fan service? Because other than that, she doesn't really do anything. Wow, you got Finnegan to lead the ship right to Erebos' prison.
Isn't that convenient?
Why does the Baker Man show up for an entire scene just to give Callum and Rayla donuts and make a callback to the hot brown morning potion joke? Is that supposed to be funny? I'm not laughing. Speaking of the Baker Man, why do Jason Simpson and Paula Burrows voice so many minor characters? Did they not have the budget to just hire some other cheap voice actors? I probably wouldn't have as much of a problem with it if their voices weren't so distinguishable. Where does this mushroom guy come from? What was the point of Zubeia getting corrupted if she just magically gets healed without any consequences? Why aren't there any consequences? Why do the bad guys always lose and the good guys always win? Can we just not have a season where things go wrong for the protagonists at the end? Every season ends in a group hug and it's boring and predictable. What is happening anymore? There's just so much time wasted on meaningless characters and plot lines and jokes that when the show finally does decide to go back to important stuff, it's episode 8 and the season's pretty much over. Episode 9 is a rushed mess because of this. It honestly feels like it should be the mid-season finale of Season 5, and there should be a whole other half of the season left to go, but nope, that's it. Now you get to wait another 8 months for yet another poorly paced, unsatisfying adventure. I'm so excited! Everything hurts. But would you like to know what hurts the most? What pains me to my core? What haunts my very soul? Let's take a look at episode 1 of season 5 for a moment. In this episode, Rayla wants to go into Callum's study and through the secret passage from season 1 to find any possible answers on how Runan and her parents got turned into coins. But Rayla is keeping all of this information from Callum, I guess because she doesn't trust him enough with it? Isn't that ironic? Anyways, and I kid you not with this next part, she steals the key from Callum, goes into his study without his permission, gets caught, gets arrested, and then this scene happens.
None of this matters.
Don't you want to know what she was up to? Why she did all this?
If she didn't tell me, she has a good reason. I know this. The tides are true as the ocean is deep.
What does that mean, Prince Callum?
It means I trust her, unconditionally. Let her go, now.
What? What kind of message are you trying to send here, Wonderstorm? That you should trust someone unconditionally, even when they literally just broke your trust? Several different times? Listen, even good people make mistakes, I get that. But to trust someone unconditionally, no matter how selfish or inconsiderate their actions truly are, is absolutely asinine, especially when they still have not even apologized for their wrongdoings. I think it would have been a much more impactful scene if Callum recognized that what Rayla did was wrong, while still telling her that he loves her unconditionally. Because you can be rightfully upset and disappointed at someone and still love them. But blindly assuming that someone has a good reason for everything they do is a terrible mindset, because it goes against what we know about our very nature as people. What Rayla did by lying to Callum's face and leaving him confused and heartbroken for 2 years, that was an objectively selfish and inconsiderate thing to do. Rayla may have seen it as sparing Callum from possible danger, but that only proves that she does not trust him enough to take care of himself, something that I thought she learned to do in season 3. I'm not saying that Rayla can't be a flawed character that makes genuine mistakes, but if she repeatedly continues to not learn from them, what is even the point of her character? She is just stuck in this endless cycle of learning the lesson of trusting the people she cares about more, only for her to forget it a few episodes later. The show paints her as a hero, but someone who never learns from their mistakes and actively breaks her friend's trust is an objectively bad person. Why are we just pushing this under the rug, Wonderstorm? Do you seriously just not have enough time to address one of the most vital flaws and one of the show's most integral characters? What are you thinking? You guys have no idea how cathartic it was for Rayla to finally be called out for her actions by Amaya in episode 4, but it shouldn't have been Amaya. It should have been Callum. Callum is the one who was most wronged by her actions. It shouldn't have to be Amaya who stands up for him. But what's sad is that I genuinely think that Callum is so desperately in love with Rayla at this point that he is convincing himself that he is the one who was wrong. He is the one who needs to step forward and apologize for not forgiving her soon enough. What was once the most wholesome, loving relationship in the entire series has turned into one that is unrecognizable and, forgive me for using this word, but toxic. As someone who used to love this show for its well-written characters and relationships, that is heartbreaking. This show is such a mess. I have no idea what season 6 or 7 will be about, but knowing that pretty much this entire arc's main plot has likely already been written and set in stone, I do not have high hopes based on what we have seen so far. I will continue to watch this show because I will always love this cast of characters, and there are so many talented people involved in the production. And there are still moments of brilliance that shine through the layers of mediocrity. But I will not sit here and pretend that this show is not a far cry from what it once was. I can't. I just can't. Of course, I'd like to add that if any of you watching enjoyed the new season, that's awesome. I completely respect your opinion, and I'm glad you were able to find enjoyment out of it, because that is ultimately what this is all about, right? Entertainment. But for me personally, these flaws were simply too large to ignore. Well, I think that covers just about everything I had to say. I hope you enjoyed listening to me rant. This is my first time editing a video this long. I am very tired. I am going to bed now. Sparklepuff is the best character in the entire show. Thank you, and good night. Speaking of the Baker Man, why did Jason Simpson and Paulo... Speaking of the Baker Man, why did... Oh my god, why is this so hard?